Hello, hello, hello. Happy 2026 and welcome back to the Brighter Podcast. My name's BatSheva.
And my name is Chelsea.
And my life is so much brighter thanks to Chelsea.
And my life is definitely brighter thanks to BatSheva.
And Chelsea and I love to come on here sharing tools, techniques, modalities, and stories of all the ways that we are able to brighten our own lives in the hopes that we can help you brighten your day and your life as well. And today's topic is definitely one of those beautiful mental, spiritual tools helping in that journey. And before we get into it, let's go ahead, all of us together, and breathe a few good, solid, grounding breaths before we move forward. So if you can close your eyes, if you're in a place where you can do that, go ahead and close them. If not, just kind of center your thoughts and consciousness somewhere in your heart space. Close your eyes if you can. Go ahead and breathe deeply in through the nose, a nice, calm, soothing breath in. And then you can release it through the mouth, thinking you'll just let anything ready to go, let it go. Taking in another nice, soothing breath in through the nose. And then allowing it whoosh out through the mouth, centering your thoughts, your heart, your being. Third breath together, we'll take it in through the nose, calming, quieting energy. Breathe it out. Let anything ready to go, let it go. Awesome. We are at episode 39 of the Brighter Podcast. And I do think that this topic, surrendering to the waves, somewhat mirrors our very first ever podcast, because Chelsea and I met, we tell that story in our first podcast, we met at the 10-day silent retreat in Palm Springs, where we sat and were silent and meditated for, just about 11 hours a day. No big deal for 10 days in a row, uninterrupted. And I would say, I don't know how you feel about this, Chelsea, but I think the number one achievement and goal of that practice, especially for a beginner, is to really launch you into a different level of your life where you can be a bit more in surrender mode, meaning not grasping and holding on to what you want to happen and what did happen in the past and what's happening right now. But instead, the idea is to be able to remember and have hopes and dreams and have current experiences and simultaneously continue to just let it go, let it go, let it go.
I definitely am feeling the waves as we are even recording this. And last night, it's also interesting. I was just thinking that last night I was listening to an Alan Watts thing on YouTube, and one of the 5 steps was surrender. Just give it all up and to just be, to be with what is, to roll with it, to not hold on to things. And I'm definitely experiencing that right now as we're moving into the beginning of the year and thinking about all of the license renewals that are coming up and tax stuff and just other business things that I haven't had to think about or focus on for a year, and now they're all coming due again. And so, just getting that in order and calming down the thoughts that are running around in my head of not completing it or being late or whatever. Just allowing myself to be with what is and to surrender to, if none of it gets done, it will be okay. And then I was sharing with BatSheva that it kind of happened yesterday, coming home from some traveling and then having the whole list of what to do once you get back home. And then also having simultaneously the desire to rest. And our last episode, or last couple episodes, maybe it's 2 episodes ago, the permission to rest, just realizing that we are still in this hibernation time and it's okay to rest. And honestly, by gifting myself that permission, I was able to accomplish so much yesterday. And so I'm kind of using this surrender energy moving forward in my daily tasks and activities, that what's meant to get done will get done, and that there will be assistance and guidance and help will arrive.
I love that because it kind of reminds me that all the work we do and the practices that we put into our daily routines, and we are pretty disciplined when it comes to, let's say, a daily meditation or a daily yoga practice or daily journaling. At the same time, it's so funny that the real work, the real fruits of, in a sense, our labor, like our labor of love of putting all those practices into play, it's when the waves start hitting and hitting hard, either like what you said, like all the letters coming in and all the pressure mounting and all the things that need to be done. Like you can't avoid them forever, or made me think about sometimes in my day-to-day life, I'll have a plan and then I'm going to have children. Like someone will need something dropped at school that, we didn't plan for. And another one is sick and needs to be picked up. And all of a sudden, like everything I planned is like goes out the window, or like someone hurts themselves or blah, blah, blah. And there's in a way like an endless opportunity for the universe to throw these curveballs at us. And I remember even you telling me once, Chelsea, like, you're like, this is what you do all that work for. This is what we've practiced for, this is the game. Like we've been putting in the practice, the batting practice, like which might be your daily practice of a meditation or your daily journaling or your daily walk or, something that we really encourage everyone to figure out how to like fit into almost every day, like some kind of a practice that supports you, like in a loving and wonderful way. And then it's go time, and the game is like the ocean that's all of a sudden rough and choppy and crashing all around, and there's no time and there's no space to like go journal and go take a walk, and you're just like, oh, I got to drive back here, and oops, and now I got to drive back because I forgot the thing. And sometimes I feel like in the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, just like that tornado spinning, and in that moment, am I able to just surrender, let go? A lot of my mantras come in handy in that time, like trusting in the divine timing. My timing is elegant, or the one that Chelsea taught me that I have used again recently so much that I love so much, that all is well, everything's working out for my highest good. Out of this experience, only good shall come. Those mantras are my jam, like because in the moment, like that's it. That's all I can do. That or, some other version to remind my mind in that moment, not to struggle, like in the riptide, like don't fight it, just flow with it, just swim with the tide a bit to get out of that until the universal riptide is just going to allow me a little bit of a side exit.
Yeah. It reminded me also, we just recently, tomorrow, I guess technically today is our last day, but tomorrow is the bonus day. We were doing a course together, and one of the journal prompts was about the mantra, "This too shall pass," and what it like meant to us. And I love that you put in there, BatSheva, that mantra about all is well. And yeah, just a reminder that everything is working out for our highest good, that life is happening for us, and just surrendering the control and riding the waves of life instead of, just hopping up on that tube and just floating down the river of life instead of trying to swim upstream or get to the side. Just go with it.
And something really fun and easy that anyone can do if you find it difficult to adhere to like a daily practice, and everyone's different, like that just literally will not work for everybody to sit and meditate every day for 10 minutes or an hour or whatever, or journal every day. It's literally not for everyone, so don't spend any time beating yourself up if that's not what you do. But these little wonderful like 21-day programs or 1-week program or 40-day programs that exist for free all over the internet and the different streaming platforms. Like Chelsea mentioned this little program that we're just completing. It was the Deepak Chopra 21-day abundance program that I had done during the pandemic with the group. And I mentioned it to Chelsea 21 days ago or however long, and she was like, yeah, let's do it before the end of the year. So you can find it on Spotify, which is where we found it, or probably Apple Music or YouTube. And so you could, for example, you could choose something like that, which is super fun. And you can do it by yourself or in a group. Or, the Insight Timer app, which Chelsea and I both love, has like endless, little classes, mini programs. Just a wonderful way that you can center yourself around someone else's program and still benefit and help yourself to get back in the mindset and the mind frame of surrendering to the daily waves.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. What other waves have you been experiencing?
Funny that you should ask because I did want to share for me what's resonating in this topic. It's actually been really beautiful when I'm able to take a step back and think about it and observe what I'm going through. And it's very painful also emotionally what I've been going through, which is specifically so the relationship with that cutie Chris that I've mentioned on this podcast, it did end, and I was the one who ended it for private reasons, obviously, over a month ago. I think almost 2 months ago or a month and a half. And I have been quite surprised at the waves of like really deep emotion that keep hitting me like deeply. And I recognized within myself all of these attributes that I've had for as long as I can remember, which have to do with like a love, romance, and fantasy approval and validation addiction, which I've recently found out is a thing. Like, just like there's a 12-step program for it, actually, which I've been tentatively kind of looking at and investigating. And it's helpful to have that framework of an understanding around it because what I'm feeling and experiencing at times has been really fucking overwhelming, fucking crazy. And I'm like, what? Like, oh my God, like I'm a 53-year-old woman. Like, what? Like, why is my brain, going to these childish places of longing and fantasy and wishing and wanting and I'll feel really emotional and sad and I'll kind of want to act out. And I haven't been really acting out, which I think is where I'm very blessed. And I think many addicts without a really structured program in place aren't able to stop themselves from acting out and or bounce back quickly. And for whatever miracle and blessed reason, I know I've spent my lifetime anyway working my own version of the steps, I will say, now becoming familiar with them. And that has enabled me to grow, let's say, outside of that particular structured program. So basically, yeah, I recognize in myself that I may not act out, but I want to act out and I will dream about acting out. And then it will pass and I'll be like, oh, like I'm fine. Like there's no problem. I'm like so grateful for all the lessons I learned and blah, 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 and the love I had and blah, blah, blah. But then it'll crash over me fucking again. And I was actually even sharing with Chelsea, I think yesterday, this realization that I've been having this week that the way I'm experiencing these emotions and thoughts reminds me of when I was microdosing with a little bit of like Chelsea's kind of supervision, because that's one thing that she is a professional in and has a lot of experience with, is helping guide people through different plant medicine journeys, including microdosing on mushrooms. And I had a really incredible experience doing that. We do talk about it during our plant medicine, what medicine is right for you episode. If you're curious, you can go check that out. But one of the main things it did for me was just what's happening with me now without the aid of plant medicine, which is just this allowing. There's an allowing happening that I am getting swept up and then I'm coming back down to stillness and swept up again. And the emotions are really coming out and then subsiding. And then I'm writing about them and they're still coming out. And I'm still in the process, by the way. I'm not like, and now it's in the rearview mirror. But I feel a certain amount of peace parallel to the process, which is pretty fucking cool. And I feel really hopeful that I believe I am in a really different phase than I ever have been, including like I'm listening to the latest memoir by the master, Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And she's such a wonderful, wonderful storyteller and writer and a self-examiner. And her latest memoir called All the Way to the River, I'm only like about 5 or 6 chapters in. I'm listening to the audiobook. She's telling the story of her own addiction, which is the sex and love and romance and fantasy and approval and validation addiction, and her relationship with a woman who had an addiction to, I think, heroin, different substances, alcohol. And she was talking in this one chapter I was just listening to about how she was very codependent. And that led her to, when she made all that fucking money from Eat, Pray, Love, she would just like give it away. She didn't feel worthy, or I don't know. And I was like, oh my God. Like I just had this flashback to when I cashed out like all of my stock options from the company, that if I had kept them in and allowed them to remain in the company once that company went public, I would have been a millionaire several times over. And instead, I had an opportunity to take them out at one point, which, at that moment, we didn't know if or when the company would go public necessarily, although I probably could have known that. But instead, I focused on like, well, what can I do with the money now when I cash it out? And I put all the money into the coffee shop, which was my husband at the time's deepest desire and dream to create that. And I was just looking at that from the lens of the codependency filter that, Elizabeth Gilbert was sharing from her own life. And I was like, yeah, that was exactly what I did with all that money. Like I didn't keep it and I wasn't wise with it. And I would like to say here and now that I believe I'm in a different space. And whereas I am feeling all the feelings, and I'm seeking support. And if it's the 12-step program that will continue to be a support for me, then it will be. I'm open to that. I'm kind of looking into it. But also just being really transparent about it and articulate about it, writing about it, talking to Chelsea about it. And therefore I can't like hide behind I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, for example, with the money back then. I wouldn't have told anyone who would have anyway, like had a different thought about it. Like, don't fucking do that. I wouldn't have listened to them. Yeah, so I'm in a different place now. And so what surrendering to the waves means for me now, it's like the waves of emotions I'm feeling that in the past, I could only stand them for so long before I took a certain action that in retrospect wasn't supporting my own internal resilience and strength and self-love. And so I'm hoping for different results because I'm doing different things and seeing life in a different way.
Well, I can tell from witnessing you on a daily basis through our daily dubs that there's been massive shifts, and it's really inspiring to hear you speak about it and just to witness your growth. So many people that I know, once they reach a certain age, they decide that this is just the way that they are and that they're never going to change, and that they don't even want to consider that because for a lot of people, change is difficult or change is uncomfortable. But whenever we think about the waves and riding the waves of the emotions and riding the wave of life, honestly, everything is ever changing. The comment, the saying that you'll never step in the same river twice because the water is moving. The rocks on the bed are moving. You're not the same whenever you step into it the second time. Our cells are constantly changing. And so it's really amazing. And I also recently have kind of discovered the thought of a full plant medicine journey and thinking about what that looks like as I have dove into tons of research and books and my own journeys. I just kind of had an epiphany of life is one giant trip. It literally is. It can be so happy and riding the highs of the highs, and then just a split second turned something terrifying. And then that goes and it's something else. And it's just ever changing. And just being able to kind of sit back and say, this too shall pass. All is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. Out of this experience, only good shall come. And just remembering that it's not over. It's not over until it's over. And then maybe it's not over. Maybe there's another part of it.
I know. I mean, it's so fascinating to see my parents, age, and they're losing people in their 80s, of course, their friends and colleagues, and thinking that you and I were still in this phase of our life, and that at some point we'll be in a different phase where that's going to be a little more present. The idea of the transition into fully spirit or without the body, and what does that look like, and how to prepare for that mentally. And that's such a beautiful concept too. But I also wanted to just thank you for actually reminding me and saying that you've witnessed me changing, and you thanked me for sharing that, because I didn't realize until you said that there was a little part of me that was feeling pretty self-conscious about what I was sharing and pretty embarrassed about it, I think. And I realized, I had courage. It took courage to share that, and it takes courage to do it. And then in my case, because I love to write and tell jokes and, sing. I like to bring everything I'm living into the creative realm and share it with people, which can be quite exposing. It's just like such a helpful and beautiful reminder and comforting reminder that courage, it's worth it, because I know I am so inspired by other people's stories of courage. And exactly what you said, Chelsea, about many people just feel like, oh, they've reached a certain age in their life, so it's kind of too late. And truthfully, I remember being 25 years old and feeling that. Like, it's not impossible to feel that at any age. I mean, sadly, that's why so many people will take their lives. And then you look at that person and you're like, how could they even think to do that? Like, literally a week later, things change. Like you said, the river is not the same river. But in that moment, it can be so easy for any of us to only see and feel the darkness. And I do know that for me, the courage has come a lot from having your support, having the support of the daily W practice that we do, having the right communities, and then being able to share of myself in a pretty vulnerable way. And then for people to reflect that back to me positively. So I definitely encourage anyone who's listening, it's not an accident that you're hearing this episode. And, always, always seek the light. Find the people in your life or the book or the video or the podcast or whatever, the meditation that will comfort you and hold you and support you, reflect back to you, cheer you on, and help you feel courageous.
Yes, we are, companion beings. We love to live in community and relate to each other. And I've seen it so many times in some of the retreats that it just takes one person to speak up about what's really going on, to kind of really show, and that gives others the permission. And it's really, kind of thinking about this going with the flow and riding the waves. It's kind of just like someone throwing you a life saver. Like, okay, you're not alone. Here, hop on the boat with us. Or here, what can I do to help you make it through this? Maybe I can teach you how to float on your back or swim in a different way or just relax.
I totally just had the image that, have you ever seen, like in Florida when they were saving like a whale or something, like the human chain of everybody, like 100 people, holding hands and then walking in the water. And that's so beautiful because, like, to have the surrender to the waves, which feels very isolated and alone. On the one hand, we are, at the end of the day, even if we're married and have children, we're still alone. It's yourself and, let's say, your higher self or the divine or, whatever support system you've created for yourself mentally and in your heart. And there is, like you said, these companion beings that are everywhere. And so I love that we're kind of ending this episode on the community helping you navigate the waves. Like, yes, surrender, and then hold on to those hands and hold other people's hands and help them navigate. And that's the message, like, we can leave everyone with. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Both messages.
I just got the vision of sometimes we go on float trips, and there's this one river in Golden, Colorado. It's like right down the city or the town. You float down it and there's people along the banks and they have their blankets and picnics and they're just kind of like in the water. And then there's people on tubes, and sometimes people will get stuck in a little current that's just kind of spinning their tube around, and then somebody will bump them and kind of bump them out of it, or they'll hit one of the drop-offs and they'll flip over, and then people will help them get their things and get their tube and get back on it. And that really, to me, is exactly what we're saying in this whole episode, that it is ever changing and you never know when you're going to be the one that's stuck in the little swirly, and then someone will come along and bump you out or help you out. And just to be open to it, to be open to whatever it comes, because we don't always see it and it's not always in expected ways, but there is some sort of help that is on the way.
Oh my God, I love that final image for us. Like, Score! That was perfect. I love it. I love it. Surrendering to the waves, but in that floating Colorado River. Amazing. It also makes me want to go do that. Sounds really fun.
It is. It is so fun.
Oh, all right. Well, listen, I think that wraps it up. And we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us into the new year of 2026. And of course, like, subscribe, share, all the good things in order to make as many people's day brighter as possible. But before we sign off, I almost forgot. We're going to go ahead and leave our daily W win, wow, and wish for the end of the episode. And I will get that started with the win of the day so far for me. I'm going to brag that this morning after I dropped my youngest to winter camp, because he's not back in school yet as we record this, it was getting kind of close to the time that I knew Chelsea and I would record, and I wanted to I knew I needed to set up for that. And at the same time, I was out and about, and it would have been very easy for me to just pick up a Target order. And I actually went on the app and told Target I was on my way. And then as I was driving, I was like, no, I don't need to fucking get those chips right now from Target. I'm going to go home and gift myself whatever extra 10 minutes that would have, or 15 or 20 minutes that extra errand would have taken, and go sit down and do a meditation and make my coffee. And I did that. And so that little pivot, mid-drive to Target, is my win number one. And my wow number one, I'm really grateful that I'm feeling healthy and good. I just can take a moment to just be grateful for my healthy body.
Beautiful. Such beautiful brag and gratitude. And I will close it off here with my wish. I wish that as I am navigating all of this paperwork that is upon me, that there will be just an extra little gift of oomph, of motivation, of drive, of persistency, of strength to continue on and see it through, and that I will take breaks as needed and feel supported. That is my wish for the rest of the day today.
Love it, love it, love it. I see that for you, girl.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Enjoy. Thank you, guys. We love you. Bye.
Bye.